This episode of the Boss Rush Podcast is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support our family of podcasts, head over to patreon.com/bossrushmedia or search for us on the Patreon app on your smart device. Thanks for helping us build something better. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Boss Rush Podcast, a great place to play games and be better. I'm one of your hosts, Corey Dirrig, and alongside me, as always, is the PC muscle race himself, LeRon Dawkins.
Hey, what's poppin'?
Hi, LeRon.
Hey, Corey. How's it going?
Oh, dude, today's been so busy. It's been...
Yes.
It's been a busy day.
This Wednesday feels like a Monday, doesn't it?
Yeah, this is... So, most people that listen know what I do for work. This is the 5th podcast I've recorded today.
Oh, wow.
And then on top of that, we had an event today, and we had three live streams today. So it was like, it was top tier day today. Also joining us in her fantastic, classically trained t-shirt is none other than the mad pharmacist herself, Stephanie Klimov.
Hey, this is my first podcast of the day.
It's fair.
But my team did get reamed out by the COO today at work, so it was a very unpleasant day. So I'm glad to be here.
Oh, we put up a thing at work where so my boss is the host of all of our podcasts, and we put up these new hangable backgrounds that just like like the old school like elementary school maps that you pull down, right? But they're just blank colors and for all the different podcasts that we do, so he has a different color for every podcast now, which is kind of cool.
Nice.
Anyways, enough of that. We have someone way more important and cooler to talk about than our work lives, everybody.
Way more.
I see what you did there. Our special guest is the Director of Business Development and Publishing and the Game Director at WayForward, Adam Tierney. Welcome to the show, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
This is awesome. So long story short, as a podcast, we've been trying to find cool people and companies that we really enjoy their games or our community enjoys their games. And the scariest thing to do when you've never done it really before is to reach out to a company and say, hey, provide us someone to be on our podcast. And lo and behold, we have the master of, let's see, Shantae, River City Girls, Lunark just came out and is very cool. And then, a little Nintendo project called Advance Wars Reboot Camp.
Yeah, just that.
So, yeah. Maybe you heard of it.
Nobody's going to talk about how excited they are for this game.
Except for LeRon. LeRon's been looking forward to this game longer than I think.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I've been looking for this game since it was out on Game Boy Advance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Adam, why don't you just kind of tell everybody who you are, kind of what you do, and we have a ton of questions for you from our community, which is great. So, just tell us kind of what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Adam Tierney. I'm one of the directors, and also I now head up BizDev and publishing at WayForward. I've been here almost 20 years, basically my whole career, and I'm a student of Matt Bozon, the creator of Shantae. He was the one that trained me and taught me how to make games. But yeah, it's been awesome. I mean, I love the company, and I started as an animator and then very quickly became a director. And then I did that exclusively for around like 12 or so years, and then started taking over BizDev and publishing. And for people that don't know, so BizDev is the person that makes the deals. So when WayForward does like a DuckTales or something like that, someone has to reach out and say, hey, can we make a DuckTales game, or respond when somebody comes back and asks about that. That's the BizDev person making the deals happen. And then recently I've also taken over publishing, and what that means is when WayForward not only makes a game, but we also release it, it's overseeing that stuff. So it's like what our trailers are and what we're doing on social media, and how much games cost, and getting them in the eShop, all that kind of stuff. So I do a little bit of all that stuff. And in addition to that, I still occasionally design and direct games and do a bunch of other stuff here.
That's that's awesome. I was actually like, because like I like WayForward games, but I know especially Ed, our host of Nintendo Power Block, our Nintendo podcast, huge WayForward fan. I'm like, I went to him. I'm like, hey, are there anything specific I should know about, WayForward that I can make myself sound smarter than just obviously just Wikipediaing or Googling WayForward. And I realize I've played way more WayForward games than I even knew, right? Like obviously all the Shantae games, the Blood Rain game that was on Xbox 360 was awesome. I think it's backwards compatible on Xbox Series X. So
well, you gotta play the new one. So that was the cool thing. So
right.
I mean, not to dive
revamped.
Yeah. So what we did is because we some of our games that we worked on a long time ago, a decade ago, we recently ported them because they were old. And so they were Double Dragon Neon. We got that on modern systems. And then also Boy and His Blob. Everybody loved that on Wii. That's on modern systems. But the Blood Rain one was really cool because we got to add stuff. And I was super involved with this. But the first two Blood Rain games, the main voice actors were Laura Bailey and Troy Baker. Two gods of voice actors now and then. They barely were starting out when they made Blood Rain 1 and 2. When we did part 3, we didn't have VO in the game at the time. I think it was, we were starting out in terms of that sort of stuff, and it was, probably not a huge budget. So when Ziggurat, the publisher, wanted to bring the game back, we said, we should get Troy and Laura to finally voice the characters because there's lots of dialogue in the game. It's just not heard, and we were able to do it. So if you buy the current version of Blood Rain Betrayal, it's called Fresh Bites. It's really cool because we got Laura to voice this character she started her career with, and it was so good to hear her back in that.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, yeah, I was just looking at the list here. Love DuckTales Remastered. Love DuckTales Remastered. I love all the Shantae games. Contra 4 was awesome. Mighty Switch Force games were awesome. I played the crap out of Mighty Switch Force 1 and 2 on the 3DS. And everybody knows I'm not a huge handheld only gamer. I love my Switch, but Mighty Switch Force 1 and 2 were must-haves for me personally. The Mummy Demastered was actually surprisingly awesome, way better than the movie. Not that bar was really that high. I liked it, but it's not a masterpiece of cinema or anything.
Yeah. That was an interesting one because that was not the case when we signed up for it. The movie was not out. So we signed up basically, oh man, this is going to be the biggest movie in the world. We're going to do the game of it. And it's kind of, in a way, it was interesting because the game that we did, it's not focused on the Tom Cruise character. It's sort of focused on this, random little agent. And so it allowed us to kind of, I think when the movie didn't get great reviews, people were kind of like, oh, but this thing's its own thing and it's got its own story and entity, and it kind of, got its identity of its own. But yeah, that was a weird one because when we signed up for it, everybody thought that movie and the whole series of new monster movies is going to be the biggest thing in the world, and then it just wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah, they were planning on it, and missed, I guess. And then I know my cousins and my cousins' kids are really into the Descendants, and they like that. You guys did that Descendants game, which was
we did,
which was cool. So yeah, I mean, I guess WayForward's been a part of my gaming history more than I realize. So I'm glad we could have you on, and like I said, our community is really excited to talk about WayForward as well. So awesome. we're gonna get into questions. We're gonna answer Ed's questions first because he is the biggest WayForward fan. So if you ever want to talk about Nintendo, maybe we'll have you on there too. But he asks, when A Boy and His Blob for Wii came out, did you all plan for a collection with an art book and music? Also, do you guys think you'll make a big return, a big action or turn-based RPG? Sorry, I'm trying to translate this in real time.
So what was the first question about Blob?
he asked if you enjoyed working on it and if you planned for a collection with an art book and music.
Yeah, so that one, I mean, we weren't really doing physical. We weren't as involved with the physical back when that originally came out. Now we really are. Now, like whenever Limited Run does,
I was going to say,
physical
doesn't
stuff.
Limited Run have one for A Boy and His Blob?
Yeah. The only thing is that's the publisher Ziggurat. So we helped port it, but we didn't publish that. Like any of the stuff that WayForward, like Shantae's and River City, where we're the publisher, we're super involved in the Limited Run stuff. So we're helping them design all the little goodies and figures and stuff like that. But since that one wasn't us publishing, we weren't as involved in that. I do know that like there was a collector's edition. I don't remember what was in it. And I remember at the time we made the game, there were some promo items, like there was a squishy ball at E3, and I think they did like a jelly bean cross promotion or something. But I mean, we love that.
I think it was a pre-order bonus at GameStop.
Yeah,
I think I had
that
one
makes sense.
At one point.
Yeah, we're super into all that stuff, and so yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think there might have been. You'd have to look on eBay or something. I want to say that there was some Boy and His Blob art book back with the Wii one. I don't remember if it came with a game or how you got it, but I think there was an art book at some point. I'm not 100% though. And then what was the other part of the question?
Did he freeze?
He asked.
He might.
No. Sure did.
Either that or he's thinking real hard.
Yeah. Oh, now you're back.
There we go.
All right. The second part of the question was, do you guys think you'll make a big action or turn-based RPG?
Yeah, so we've dabbled. So River City Girls 1 and 2, even though it's a brawler, that is a super RPG. Like it has all the stats and leveling and even more than the original Kunio-kun games, which had, just the stat stuff. We added like accessories, which are essentially like armor elements, and it gets pretty Castlevania-ish. So there's a lot in there. The deepest we've ever gone RPG-wise is that I'm aware of is a Vita game we did called Silent Hill Book of Memories. It was the weird Silent Hill that looked like Diablo, but that one is crazy RPG. Again, all the stats, all the weapons, and I remember like because I directed that game, like factoring in what your damage value was on an enemy. It was like this plus this plus this. It was like 20 different things all factoring in and determining that. So that's the most RPG-ist thing we've done. As far as strategy, we actually had a really interesting game you can track down if you have a 3DS I think it was called Transformers. Is it Rise of the Dark Spark, I think?
You did the Dark Spark 3DS port?
We did the 3DS one. So it's a top-down, turn-based, kind of Advance Wars-ish game where you're moving characters around in pixel art, and then once they combine, they duke it out in like this kind of 3D Rock'em Sock'em Pacific Rim type thing. That was a cool game. I got to work on that one a little bit too. So that's a strategy game we've done. We made it in a few other strategy things, but that's the one that comes to mind.
Oh man, that's amazing. I had that game for 3DS at one point too.
I was really proud of the 3D animations of the characters because I think it came out like a year after Pacific Rim. So we were so influenced by the cinematography and the camera work on Del Toro's stuff. So if you watch the punches and kicks and stuff, they're like very, very Pacific Rim style.
Yeah, I had that game because I went through a phase where I was really big into like, I got back into Transformers at one point and I was like collecting the toys and I played all the games and like, the console versions were more along the lines of High Moon Studios kind of run of the Cybertron games. So
exactly.
But then I was like, man, this one's like a strategy RPG, and I was like really also into like Fire Emblem at the time too.
Yep.
And I was like, man, this is kind of right up my alley with Transformers. So I remember really enjoying that when I had it.
That was a fun one to work on.
Yeah. Man,
we're everywhere.
Yeah. I guess like when I think of WayForward, I think of like, I don't know. I guess I didn't realize WayForward was as big as you are. Cause I kind of think of, obviously Shantae is huge and River City Girls are huge, but I didn't realize there was all this like extra kind of, stuff around the edges.
Yeah, I'm surprised you knew about Descendants. That's a weird one. It was a mobile game we did, and it was basically looking like the Kardashian glue style games where it's just characters being snippy with each other and stuff, but
Yeah.
it was still cool because I mean, even though it was so stylistically different for us, we do so much recently where it's about dialogue and storytelling, and being able to play with that, and then also play with all the Disney brands was really fun because we're huge Disney heads.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I really only know about it because my cousins have girls, and I'm a huge Disney person. So the Descendants has kind of been floating around forever. So,
yeah, if you can see on my shelf right here, I have an entire shelf of Constance Hatchaway from Haunted Mansion, like little figures
so cool.
and stuff. So yeah, I have like probably 20 or so items of her. She's my favorite Disney character, the evil axe bride from Haunted Mansion.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Man, Disney. We could probably have a whole podcast on Disney, although they would leave, but I would stay.
Whoa! What are you talking about? I was part of the Standard Def Disney show thing.
That's true. Stephanie would stay. That's true. Stephanie would stay. All right. So you brought up. We're gonna ask this question next because you brought up Silent Hill: Book of Memories. Block from Block's Games Reviews asked this question. He said he asks, "You are the director of Silent Hill: Book of Memories. How did this project come about? And did Konami reach out to WayForward, or was it the other way around?"
They reached out to us. So Tom Hewlett, who was kind of the producer of most of the American Silent Hills, and he was a friend of mine for a long time. He knew about WayForward, liked WayForward, and basically when they had that initiative, he said, "Oh, let's hit them up for it." So there was a little bit of back and forth on, with any opportunity, like here's how we would do the game, here's our pitch, stuff like that. But they reached out to us, but the type of game it was largely figured out before it came to us, because I was the biggest Silent Hill fan, at least at WayForward, and you loved part 1 and part 2 and part 3 especially. I think 3 is my favorite, and we really wanted to do a game like that. And so they came and they're like, "Oh, hey, well, like, you guys should do the Silent Hill thing." We're like, "Oh, that's great, like, I want to direct a Silent Hill game." But then it was like, yeah, but this one's going to be like multiplayer Diablo style, auto programmatic, like everything was just RPG, everything was weird about it, and we're like, that doesn't sound at all like Silent Hill. So we ran with it because we love the game. I think also for people that play the game that kind of are willing to say, okay, this is a super weird game, but let me just wrap my head around it, I'm really proud of it. Like, it's an endless game, the way that we had auto generation so it has endless stages and VO storytelling and cinematics and creepy scare rooms. Like, there's a lot of really cool stuff in it that we're proud of, but it was definitely a challenge because at the end of the day, people are looking at it and most people are like, I don't want a 4-player online RPG Silent Hill. I just want Silent Hill. So I think it kind of got really, massacred in the reviews, maybe a little bit more than it deserved, just because it's like, this is not the Silent Hill that the fan base wanted. But that was largely all set before it came to us. So we still did all the particulars on it in terms of designs and stuff like that. But that style of game, that's what Konami wanted to make for the opportunity. So we're just kind of rolled with it.
That's unfortunate. It's with big fan base type games, so it's not necessarily just Silent Hill, but that's an example of really passionate, quote unquote, gamers where if they don't get it like exactly the style that it always has been, I do feel like it can be a little bit unfair and skewed.
I remember during development I said, like, can we change the title? Because I remember pitching, like, if we could change the title to Violent Hell or like something else, then everyone would say, "Oh, I get it, it's a parody," and then they would, like, suddenly they'd be like, this is cool, we like this. But because you're stepping on sacred ground, it's people got weird. But I remember that it was a long way to develop it, and we actually, when we did the Kickstarter for Shantae, it's probably floating around somewhere on like YouTube still, we showed off some of the prototypes that we did at the time. So way back when, we did a prototype of a Silent Hill game on Nintendo DS, and it's got James moving around and fully 3D, and everything's with like little, using the flashlight with a stylus and stuff. So that was a really cool little thing. And then when we were specifically going after Book of Memories, we also did a PS3 demo that is much more of a traditional kind of Silent Hill thing. Both of them are only like 5-minute demos, but I think if you poke around on YouTube and maybe type in like, WayForward Silent Hill demo, you'll probably see both of them, because we showed them during the Kickstarter for Shantae back in 2012 or whenever that was.
That's cool. Yeah, Silent Hill. I mean, so an example of that, of a game that I really liked and I know kind of got massacred in reviews, was Metroid Prime Federation Force on 3DS. I
Oh yeah,
actually
yeah.
I really liked that game. Man, for somebody who doesn't like handheld, I've brought up 3DS 3 times on this.
I know. I was like, wait a minute.
I
Well,
really like that game.
here's a fun fact for you. All right, so the 3DS could communicate with the Wii U, and the DS could communicate with the Wii, and
Whoa.
almost nobody took advantage of that other than WayForward and maybe some, a couple like first party Nintendo stuff. So the games we worked on it with, we did our Batman game on Nintendo Wii. If you had the DS version and the Wii version, they'd communicate together, and you could play as Batmite in the console game, like trolling the other characters with your DS. And then the same thing, we did it with Smurfs 2 on Wii U and 3DS. If you own Smurfs 2, I don't know why you would have 2 copies of it, but if you had 2 copies of it, then again you could play as something in the console one with the 3DS. And I remember we were like one of the only developers doing that technology. It was just like hardly anyone for both of those generations were spanning that stuff.
Yeah, I think the only other people that were doing it, like Capcom did it with Monster Hunter.
Yep.
And then Nintendo did
There
it
was
with
some
Smash.
Pokemon, and there was some Pokemon game, I think, on Wii that did it or something.
Yeah, like the Poke Park, you can import your DS Pokemon into Poke Park or something.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. So, man, that's cool. I love that kind of stuff. That's the weird stuff that Nintendo does, that like when you find it, the right combination of it, and it works really well, it's amazing, but then nobody ever tries to do it, and
yeah. The Batman one was really cool because you play as him in the game and you're just mucking everything up. So everyone else is like Batman and Robin are trying to play through the game, and Batmite, voiced by Pee Wee Herman, Paul Rubens, is just like dropping anvils on them and giving like one-liners. It totally, there used to be like I remember when it first came out, there was a video, I think it was like GameSpot recorded it or something, and you see once you introduce that character, it's just unplayable. You're just trolling the hell out of them. It was so fun.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. That's great. That's so cool. So we have one more question from Block about Silent Hill. He does this thing on his YouTube channel where he reviews a ton of horror games during the month of October, and I think Silent Hill, he did a Silent Hill game. I don't remember which one it was, but that's why he's asking so many Silent Hill questions. Would you return to the series again if given a chance, and if so, what would you do?
Me personally, no. And I don't want to sound too sad, but it's kind of a little bit like I directed the game, didn't come out the way I would have done, so I'm like, I don't want to do it again. Like I think I'm done with Silent Hill. However, we had a game on, you can't get it anymore, but it was on iOS and Fire Phone and a few other things. If you look up on YouTube, it's called Till Morning's Light. That was sort of, for me, because I directed Silent Hill and I directed that kind of felt like my do-over from Silent Hill. So if you look up Till Morning's Light, and hopefully we're always talking with Amazon because they own it about like, hey, can we get it on new platforms? Can we port it? But that was one where it was like just a really cool traditional like survival horror, story-driven female protagonist thing, very WayForward-y. And that was one that we did like 1 or 2 games after Silent Hill. So I don't feel like I would have to do another Silent Hill. I feel like I kind of got to, scratch that itch again and do it in a way that was more what I wanted to do with Till Morning's Light, even though it wasn't branded Silent Hill, but it was still a survival horror game.
That's cool. I hope a lot of these mobile games that get stuck because of updates and stuff, it's kind of sad.
That's what it is. Yep. It was like, and it was a really high rated game, came out really good, one of the best games we've ever done, and then essentially just we weren't really focused, or Amazon wasn't focused on it years later, and so when iOS updates happen, it timed out. So it's just like, oh well, it's not getting updated, and so it get yanked off the store. That's the risk with digital products, and that's part of why we love working with limited run, because you have a disc, you can always play it forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That physical, it's nice to hear when like physical games, you put the whole game on the disc, right? And I mean, there was that big that hilarious thing with Call of Duty where it was literally just the license on the disc and you still had to download the game, or like the whole conundrum with Redfall for Xbox, where like they literally weren't printing discs for it, they were just going to stick the download code in the box. And
Wow.
I was like, man, that's like, I get it. Like, as somebody who primarily purchases digital, like,
Yeah.
I get it, but also there are games that I like to have physical copies of. Like, I hold my Shovel Knight physical copy near and dear. You know, I have the Cowabunga collection, right?
Yep.
Because all these different things, and so it's nice to have the physical games when you love
Yeah.
them. And I'm glad that WayForward is taking the steps to like put the full game on the cartridge or the disc or whatever, napkin. I don't know what games are
I
going to
don't
run on in 20
understand
years.
why this is clearly a simpleton question. Why Redfall would not print discs but put a digital code in a case? Because if that's the case, why wouldn't they just sell it digitally? Just with like, why waste the plastic?
I mean, it's kind of like it's not quite a game as a service, but I mean, they're going to keep updating that game for a little while, right? And it's the same reason why Destiny doesn't have discs anymore. I don't know why games that get updated and give new content over time, I really don't understand why they put discs out, except for the fact that people like to have the box on the disc or the box on their shelves, right?
Okay, I mean,
well, isn't that that's like the model with Fortnite, right? Because my son plays that. There isn't really, I don't think, a Fortnite game. It's like if you buy the physical, it's like, okay, you get an update or you get like credit or something.
Is there even a Fortnite physical?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Well, the physical disc has the Save the World mode on it, and then you have to download Battle Royale. My nephew's really into Fortnite, and he decided to tell me all about it the other day when he was here, and he was like,
interesting.
He was like, the disc is worth like $1,000, and we looked it up, and it was like $40. So I was like, I mean,
I'm in my office here, so on this side I've got lots of limited run stuff that we've done, some rare stuff, but over here, right behind me, is just my favorite games of all time, and so kind of top to bottom, like Hades and Ico and Flashback, and so I when I switched into this office, I rebought any of them that I was missing.
Nice.
And, and it's a good backdrop whenever I have meetings.
That's a cool shelf.
Flashback. You couldn't tell me anything about that game back in the day. Oh my god.
Yeah, one of my favorites for sure. And if anybody's checking out Lunark, the game we just released, very similar to that. Very scratches the same kind of itch.
It's very Flashback. Oh my gosh, I was like, when I first started playing it, not to get into what we were playing, but I bought it because like, I wanted to talk about it because obviously it's your latest game, and I figured I should probably play it. But like, it actually reminds me a lot of Prince of Persia too, like the original Prince of Persia. So. And
definitely lots of Prince of Persia influence.
I was like, man, this game's kind of cool, and I'm not very far. I've only played like an hour. I played it for like an hour last night, just because I've been working on a bunch of stuff for us. But like, it's a really cool game. It's a really good looking game, and I really like the pixel art. I really like the just like the level design and kind of like the weird ways, like you have to jump and you're like, all right, I'm committing to this jump. There's no turning around.
Yep. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
And the guy who created it, so WayForward published it, we didn't develop it. It's a one-man game. So our friend Johan Vinay did everything, all the programming, all the art, all the music, everything, even like the cinematics where it's all rotoscope. That's him recording himself. So I think he's been working on it for like 4 or 5 years, and he's awesome to work with. We love that guy.
That's so cool. Yeah, I really like it. I also like the kind of animated cutscenes too, like especially that kind of opening one where he finds the kind of the handprint on the ground and he goes to reach for it, and then like the lasers start kind of like and the whole screen lights up. It's super cool.
Yeah.
If you want to be a Patreon producer, head on over to patreon.com/BossRushMedia and find out which tier is right for you. Our Patreon producers at the $5 tier or higher for this month are Adriel Munger, Austin Campbell, Celeste Roberts, Christian S., Sana Dirrig, Francisco Santillan, and Rebecca Jewell. Thank you for your continued support. It's great. So, all right, more questions for you.
Sure.
The One True James has 3 questions for you.
Sure.
WayForward is one of the guiding lights of modern Metroidvanias. How do you approach developing in that genre?
That's a good question. I mean, and so ones we've done, different versions of Shantae are more or less Metroidvania versus action platformer. We did most of the development on Bloodstained, which I think a lot of people don't realize. We did Mummy Demastered. We did Aliens Infestation. That's very Metroidvania. So a lot of our games, it's one of our more common brands. I think for me, the ones I've worked on, you think about how you can make it stand out from everything else ahead of time, because a lot of it is pretty obvious. It's like, okay, what are my maps? Where are you going? What are the items? What are the locks and the keys? And what are you looking for? But if you can come up with interesting ways to put a spin on it, I think that helps it resonate. For example, when we did Aliens Infestation on Nintendo DS, it's a Metroidvania style game. It's side view pixel, kind of similar to our Contra game, but we said, okay, these are military characters. We want them to feel more modern. So we actually took a lot of modern FPS and third-person shooter, tactical shooter mechanics and put it in that game. So even though you're a little side view like pixel guy, you can snap back against cover, you can blind fire over it, you can like hop and pop over it, you can do, leaping lunges and climb up on ledges, and so much of like the moment-to-moment mechanics was like 1 foot in Metroidvania platformers and then 1 foot in like, Call of Duty style stuff. So that was really interesting in that game, kind of figuring out things like that, and tactical things like tactical shotgun reload. So if you had, 10 shells or whatever, you can, unload them, and then you have to manually put them in, but you can do that ahead of time. And if you're doing it when creatures are coming at you, I remember you could also lock your direction. So if you're firing at somebody, if you held down the firing button, you could backtrack. I don't know, that it would, like, the mobility in that game was all over the place. But I would say that's probably the thing that we think of first, is how can we make it feel different from everything we've done before. With the Mummy game, the big hook was when you die, that soldier becomes a zombie and you re-encounter them with the next player. So whenever we can add stuff that's just like, oh, that's cool, I haven't done that in a Metroidvania before, that's usually kind of the first step for us figuring stuff out.
Well, makes sense. I mean, I like myself a good Metroidvania, but there's just so many out there. It's like
Yes.
almost like that Netflix effect. You just keep scrolling. It's like, oh my gosh, which one do I pick?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Our next question, One True James again. He asks, "Who's your favorite WayForward character?"
Oh, that's a good question, because I've created a lot of them and it's hard to pick. I guess, okay, so if I don't count River City Girls, because we don't own that, because it's owned by Arc System Works, and we kind of came up with some of the characters, I would probably say Kabako from Cat Girl Without Salad, just because I love writing for her. I love Christina's VO for her. We only did the one game, but we like do a lot of like, playing around with it at April Fools, and have done various like, other promotional stuff. But she's one of the most fun characters to write for, and yeah, that would be my choice.
And then the last question from One True James. He asks, walk us through a day in the life at WayForward. What does your job look like?
So my job
question.
is basically 95% email inbox and Google Documents. So what I will do, we'll do lots of meetings and stuff, and we'll do it mostly via Zoom. But for BizDev and publishing, it's lots of emailing people. So it's like making connections with like, oh, you're this company, you have this brand, can we make a game of that? Like, that would be awesome to have the WayForward version of this. Lots of those kind of conversations and emails and following up. Then when they say, oh yeah, you can tell us what your version of this would be, then I'm working with artists to like create our mock-up of it and create our art of it and get people excited. So it's a lot of that. And then beyond that, it's a lot of like design documents. So it's like, if we're going to do this game, we need like a 3-page write-up on what's inside of it, or how many enemies there are, and PowerPoints and stuff like that. But that's most of my day-to-day. If I'm lucky enough to be directing a game, then it changes to be like working with the programmers, working with the artists, and just playing it over and over and over. Because ultimately being a game director is like, you put down your vision, you're like, here's what I want the game to be, and then they start putting stuff in it, and you're like, this feels awful, and then you just keep playing it, and you're like, change this, and you basically just make your game good by saying everything you hate about it 10,000 times.
Oh.
Eventually they fix it all and you're like, all right, it's not as awful anymore. And that's a fun process.
Well, I mean, it must be kind of, well, challenging in a sense, because when you're playing it, you're trying to, it's almost like it's abstract feedback. Like, I don't like this,
Oh,
so
yeah.
make it better. But like, you know.
And what's interesting too is there's a phenomenon with development, and I think you just kind of get used to being aware of it and being careful. But what happens a lot of times, and I think like people starting out in development will do it, is because you're playing through your game 200 times over development, a lot of people get bored of it, and then they start cranking up the difficulty, and they're like, this is too easy, and then they crank it up, and now it's really too easy. And so sometimes you'll see that with like, you know, indie studios when they're starting out. It's like, why is the difficulty like spiking like crazy here? And it's because they got used to their own game, they got bored with it, and then they just decided to make it more interesting to them, and lost the audience.
Nice. That sounds cool. That sounds really fun to direct a game. Although I don't know if I have the chops to do that, which is why I record and edit video and do social media for my job instead of, you know, making a game, because
it's weird. You have to think of everything. So you have to think of like how the character moves and the bosses, and you also have to think of like when a coin drops, how does it bounce and how does it animate? Like every tiny little thing you can think of, like loading icons. You have to think of everything top to bottom in the game.
Yeah, that'd be so cool though, just to like have that kind of that level of control over everything from in a game, and just kind of make it how you want it.
Yeah. And I think that like a big part of what resonates with WayForward games is when we do that, we tend to have like high personality everywhere. So like a good example is with the River City Girls game, there's a loading icon, and the loading icon is the two main characters just beating the crap out of each other. And it's like, well, loading icon is usually either something spinning or like a little 4-frame animation. So let's just have them beating the shit out of each other. And and it's on brand. And so it's fun to make like weird little decisions like that, because I think it adds to the charm of the game.
Yeah, it's super cool. I appreciate little details like that, for sure. As somebody who actually wanted to be an animator growing up, like when I was growing up, I even visited like Disney. My one of my teachers, her daughter was an animator for Disney for a long time, and so we went and actually took a tour of the studio, and I was like learning about all this animation, and she was kind of the lead animator on Simba and the Lion King and Mulan, and I was learning about, you know, I was kind of now that I think about it, I was kind of one of the first people who learned about like Hercules and, you know, the things that were coming after Mulan and stuff that they hadn't really announced yet, and just learning how animation kind of works from a like an analog sense as opposed to like a digital sense. Do you like when you talk to your animators, do they like draw stuff out, or is it all kind of like, is it all digital now, or do you have like, you know, paper hanging up on a pinned to a board or anything?
Not really. Yeah, it's all digital. I mean, even when I started at WayForward almost 20 years ago, because I actually got hired as an animator, that was my first job here. It's all digital. So at that point, it's either you're working drawing in pixels, which is like kind of playing like with Legos, but even with 3D, it's more puppety. I guess there might be so a little bit when we do like 2D HD style, which is like traditional animation, there's a little bit of that. I remember when we did Boy and His Blob originally, there was a part of the game where some of the animations were done on pencil, on paper, and then they scanned it in. But I think by the end of that project, we had switched over to completely digital. Now it's just all drawn on Cintiqs and Wacom's and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, it would be kind of weird if you did. I mean, you look at something like Cuphead, and that's such an anomaly in terms of how things are created these days. All right. So Ice Malone 330 on Twitter, he asks if you could handle a licensed IP, what would it be, and what would you make out of it?
I kind of can't answer because all of our dream licenses we are pursuing right now. So I'll give a horrible teasing answer and say, like, you know, watch what comes out from WayForward in like 2023 and 2024, because the stuff we're getting, some of it is classic gaming IP, some of it is classic anime IP, some of it is based on cartoons, but really like all our dream games, we're getting all of them. And so I would actually be hard pressed to come up with one that would be a good example that we're either not discussing right now or we're not planning to go after.
It's so exciting.
All right, you heard it. You heard it here first. Zone of the Enders 3. That's coming.
I do like Zone of the Enders. I can confirm we're not working on a Zone of the Enders, but we would work on that. I'll tell you what, I would, if we're talking about like Kojima stuff, I'd love to work on Boktai, or was it Lunar
Oh
Knight?
man,
yeah, that was a really dope series.
Boktai was a fun game, but I hate the fact that you had to play it during the daytime.
That was tricky, but I'll say for my money, I think Boktai might have the best pixel art ever in any game ever. The first game, it's
yes, yeah. The sun is in your hands. That was the coolest tagline ever.
Man, so
I'll say, okay, so for kind of an answer, I would say anything Disney. Like, we're big Disney fans, so if we could do something based on classic Disney characters or Disney theme parks or something like that, we're always trying to make stuff like that happen.
Man, yeah, I would buy every single Disney thing that you did, to be honest with you. I just so today, as of this recording, Figment was announced for Disney Speedstorm, and looks like I know what I'm playing for the next till Zelda comes out, I would say. But yeah, I would. You should do a Figment platformer. Yes, there you go. Free idea.
There,
Oh my gosh, if you did that, I would freak out. I would be the happiest person on the planet. It would probably sell like 10 copies because not very many people that play games know who Figment is. I don't know what the Venn diagram of Disney parks people versus video game players are, but like I would buy one for everybody. All right, our last question, which is actually the first question on our doc here, comes from Matthias from Discord. He asks, what are some beat 'em ups that influenced you for River City Girls?
All right, so very specific. So it was me. I was the director on that game, and then Bannon Rudis was assistant director, and then he ended up directing the second game. So it's always kind of the two of us tag teaming. I would do most of the story stuff, and he would do most of the combat. So for my influence, probably, definitely River City Ransom. The NES game is the Kunio-kun game that I was most familiar with. The one that I played the most, though, growing up was definitely Double Dragon 2: The Revenge. And so I remember when we did the very first prototypes of River City 1, that was important to like get some of that stuff in there. We had like the flying knee, and we ripped the sound effect from Double Dragon 2. And so, yeah, getting Double Dragon 2 stuff in there. Same thing, I mentioned the Batman game before. We did on Nintendo Wii, just totally ripped off the Double Dragon 2 combat system. So big fans of Double Dragon 2, River City Ransom, and then I know also, then the other two were Kunio-tachi no Banka, which was the SNES game the girls debuted in. We ended up porting that, and that ended up being River City Zero. That was influencing the game because we took their style of animation, their attacks, like the curb stomping and stuff like that. That was all pulled over from there. And then the other one that was influencing, of course, was before Bannon worked on our game, he directed River City Ransom Underground on PC. And so a lot of the combat comes from there too. So those four games in particular. The one that we always get asked about is like, oh man, you guys must have loved the Scott Pilgrim game. We love Scott Pilgrim. I love the movie. I love the comics. And we know the people that made the game, but it wasn't really an influence. It's like Scott Pilgrim, the game, was influenced by River City Ransom, and we were influenced by River City Ransom. So that's why they feel the same. But that was one that in particular didn't specifically influence us. Although the Scott Pilgrim movie is totally an influence on the style of River City, just that crazy over the top humor and stuff. Yeah,
that's man. Did you see that they're making that Scott Pilgrim animated thing with the original cast returning? Yeah, that'll be interesting. That'll be cool.
And Science Saru, the place that did stuff like Mind Game and crazy animes, they're the ones behind it. I'm super pumped.
That's cool. I think I have a way deeper appreciation of WayForward. I just every time, like, I just didn't realize how long WayForward's been around and like how much I know I've already said that, but the more we talk and the more like, man, WayForward's just been in all of my consoles. So.
Oh yeah, even like the kid stuff. If you like go on Game Boy and look up old Barbie games and SpongeBob games, we're all over the place.
Yeah, man, this is well, that's all the questions we have. Man, we filled up like 2/3 of the show already.
Oh, that's awesome.
I know. I'm glad you took the time to answer those questions, but
Sure.
we're gonna shift gears and talk about what we've been playing. What are you playing besides things you can't talk about?
Yeah. What have I played recently? Not much. I play a lot of PS5, so I'll kind of poke around at whatever is on PlayStation Plus Premium. My son and I were recently enjoying Atari 50, and that was really cool to see because I knew all the 2600 games and stuff, but just like the really weird arcade games, those were really cool to play. I'm definitely looking forward to playing both the new Zelda and Hades 2, because those are probably the only two games where I've dumped like over 100 hours into each one of them. And so when both of those come out, I'm done. I'm just, going to be playing the hell out of both of those. But yeah, that's mostly it. And then I'll just play like, actually the other day I was playing on my iPhone. I played through Sayonara Wild Hearts again because I just love that game. But yeah, because I'm so busy with, making games or organizing games, I usually don't have much time other than like doing little mobile gaming here and there.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you sound like you're a busy guy. So
I'm very excited to play Advance Wars again when it comes out.
Yes, I hear that game is.
We're really excited about that. I played it a little bit while we were developing it originally, and I've been watching the YouTube playthroughs of or previews of it that they've been given some of the media outlets, and it just makes me all excited. I was super into the game originally, and so I'm really excited to play through that again once it's released commercially.
Yeah. On that note, on Advance Wars, something that I think we kind of want to know. I know there's certain things you can't say because Miyamoto will come out of the closet behind you and kidnap you and take you to the Mushroom Kingdom. You'll never be seen again. Hopefully they don't put you in the de-evolution machine from the original Mario Brothers movie. But I mean, what was it like working on a Nintendo IP? Like, what was it like? I mean, on a very base level, obviously, but like, that seems like a dream come true for anybody that's like, grew up with the NES or the Super Nintendo, right? Like that's incredible.
Yeah, and I think this game in particular, the fact that it's, one of our favorite games ever. I got to help a little bit with some of the development. My friend James was kind of the lead on it. It was amazing because of the game and because working directly with Nintendo. We've done so many Nintendo products over the years and a lot of exclusive stuff where it's like only on Wii or only on Switch and kind of love letters to the systems and stuff, but they're always usually like self-published, like they're not officially Nintendo games. So this is the first time we've done something where it's working that closely with Nintendo, and yeah, no, it was amazing. I mean, they're as incredible an experience as you imagine it would be, and as creative as you would imagine those guys are. It was all of that, and they were one of the best partners we've ever worked with. They really pushed for the game to be as great as possible, and hopefully people dig it when it comes out. But yeah, it was totally a dream opportunity for us.
That's awesome. So I never played the original Advance Wars, but I'm really looking forward to this, especially because obviously Intelligent Systems made the first one, and obviously I love Fire Emblem, and so I'm looking forward to jumping into something. I actually also really fifth time I brought up 3DS. I actually really liked Codename Steam as well, which was their weird kind of strategy game. So
yeah, it's a really good update. I mean, because it already, the characters were great, the dialogue was great, the pixel art was great, but seeing everything like very high res, having, you know, actual bits of VO in there, having like high fidelity music, having all the 3D character assets. Like it really does just feel like it takes everything to the next level. So yeah, I think I think anyone who's a fan of the series, and even people that have not played it, but like you said, have played, you know, similar games, I think they're gonna really dig it when it comes out.
Awesome. Yeah, I know we've kind of been waiting for, you know, a long time for this. So the last question I'm going to ask you, and you don't have to get into details or anything, but was it kind of disappointing when you found out it was kind of delayed, and obviously rightly so, for the, like, it was kind of like a.
That's probably something I can't say anything about.
Cool. Okay. Yeah,
Sorry.
I figured. I just wanted to.
I'm trying to think. I'm like, no, there's probably no answer I could give
nope,
that wouldn't
great.
be kind of stepping into secrets.
Thanks, Corey, because like you're really trying to make me angsty right now. Thank you.
I'm
but not. I will flip it and I will say we are so excited that it's coming out now, and that's really been amazing for us.
Yeah, please, Corey. LeRon's been tortured for several months now.
Yeah, every time a rumor would pop up about Advance Wars, you know, it's finally coming, or they're showing something, and then they didn't. Like, you know, sorry, LeRon. That's all we have to say. Sorry,
I blame all of y'all because y'all strung me along with that one.
Hey,
LeRon.
Every time one of those dirty ass directs came out, everybody was like, "Oh yeah, watch this one. I'm sure there'll be some Advance Wars news." So I sit there for like 25, 37 minutes, you know, and no Advance Wars, and I'm like, man, you know, if I go outside and start kicking dogs and punching babies, you know, like it's y'all's fault.
Well, what'd you think of the first direct where it revealed it?
Oh, see now these two can tell you right there. There was so much they put out in that direct though. It was not just Advance Wars. They had the front mission games were getting redone, and it was like that was a joyful direct for me, and because usually most directs are just like, yeah, okay, sure, whatever, you know.
LeRon made sounds I would never thought would come out of an adult human being.
Yeah, like that direct was fire. Like I'm still waiting for news for the what was the game? It's that SNK game with the freaking the tanks and the dude, like, but it's they made a strategy game.
Metal Slug
Tactics. Yeah, there we go. Yep. Yeah, I'm still waiting for that because that was also revealed during that same direct. You know, like where the hell is that game at? Yeah.
I'll give you guys an exclusive. It's just a tease though. So one of the games we're working on right now is a Switch exclusive. So it will be announcing it later this year, and I'm really excited about it. So like when I took over publishing a few years ago, the day I took over publishing at WayForward, I said, we're doing this game and we're doing it on Nintendo Switch, and we made it happen. And I'm so excited about it. We'll be revealing that in the coming months. And it's a Switch exclusive, and I'm super pumped about it. I can't give any details, but keep an eye out. There's something really cool coming from WayForward, because almost everything we do now is multi-platform. So being able to do something that is all about one system is really rare and amazing for us.
Yes, look at that. Exclusive tease. But that's going to be the title of the clip. Exclusive tease. By the way, I just want to thank you for putting games on multiple platforms. I know a lot of a lot of platforms either choose one because maybe they don't have the budget to do multiple platforms, or like maybe they feel one platform's easier to develop for and then port it later. But you know, the fact that WayForward as somebody who primarily plays on Xbox, I play a lot of Switch too, but primarily plays on Xbox. Xbox doesn't always get all the games, and so I appreciate it. I appreciate WayForward for supporting the Xbox brand.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, I'll give a shout out to Jeremy from our QA department. He's our most vocal internal advocate of like, we got to have everything on everything. We got to support all the people. And so that's just something we do at WayForward. Like you said, I think a lot of smaller publishers and developers look and say, okay, well, this is just going to be PC Switch, or just going to be Switch PS4, or just Xbox PC, and make choices like that. We know that our fan base is everywhere, and we don't want to let anybody down. So, I mean, any WayForward game that we come out with, we'll try and move heaven on earth to get it on all platforms, because we don't want any of our users, our Xbox users, our PlayStation or Switch or PC users, to feel like they get left out on a WayForward product whenever it's in our control.
Yeah, that's actually how I played River City Girls first. Was on Xbox. I think it was on Game Pass for a while.
It was, yeah. We were super excited about that.
Yeah, it's. I mean, again, I don't know if you could talk about that process, but I mean, what's it like? I mean, the Game Pass stuff. Like, is that an interesting kind of avenue for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I probably couldn't give away any specifics about how that comes about, other than it's just WayForward talking to Microsoft. But the same thing with like PlayStation Premium games on the PS5, and even though there's not that much third party stuff, obviously Nintendo kind of has their like NSO type stuff. But everybody is kind of creating their own subscription type services, and we think it's great. We found in our experience that it really does seem to just spread the word on our games. We've found that when we do have games in subscription services, it doesn't seem to largely cannibalize sales. Like, if anything, it just makes more people aware of it and makes more people want to buy it. So we try to do that as much as possible. And yeah, I think on Game Pass, we had River City 1 so far, and I think a couple of the Shantae games. We were super excited about that. And we're trying to get as much of our stuff on Game Pass and PlayStation Premium as possible.
Nice.
That's really interesting and good to hear, because like not that you should believe everything you see on Twitter, because it's a interesting place to be, we'll say. But people are always saying like Game Pass is like cannibalizing games, and it's not really supporting the indies or the smaller games, or third party games that show up there later. You're not really supporting them. It's Microsoft footing the bill to try to get content on there or something. And it's like, it's good to hear, coming from the source, that it's a positive thing for games.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I can't speak for every place. Maybe there are some where there is cannibalization. We haven't seen that. We've had an entirely positive experience. Even stuff like, we were big on Stadia when it was happening. We like Amazon Luna, anything we can do where we can get our game to more people, we usually make a big effort to do it.
That's awesome. That's good. That's cool, man. Stadia, that's rip Stadia. I really liked their controller, though. I have to say, it was I didn't use the service, but their controller was really.
It was, the nice. Service was cool too. I think our game Dawn of the Monsters debuted on Stadia. I think it came out on Stadia like 2 weeks before anything else, and we had a lot of good feedback from users on that.
Cool. All right. Well, LeRon, you're playing DJ Max Respect? Is it V or 5?
V.
No, it's 5.
V. No, it's V. Like, okay. It's a Korean game. It's a Korean game, so it's exactly what you expect. It's a music game. You guys probably remember back when Chase Bethea was on, that I mentioned that it was like a game that kind of like we like the games and genres we go to like to reset our batteries and stuff like that. And right now, for like the last 2 weeks, I've been just playing that because like I haven't had the drive to really play any games since I beat Dead Space recently, and I know the next game I'm jumping on. This is not just a shameless plug for WayForward, but it definitely is Advance Wars. Like, I was looking at I was on release.com yesterday when I was talking to Andre, like preparing for next week's episode of Crossroads, and I was like, man, like I don't even know if how I'm going to act next week when Advance Wars is out, and I have a podcast to get ready for and all that stuff. So yeah, this is one of those things. But yeah, like. Music game, like basically, you guys know the gist of the music games. You play the notes, you get the timing right, but it honestly, it feels like it's definitely like just reset my battery as far as like wanting to play games. Like, it's been the only thing I've really jumped on. And the cool thing about it is like you can jump in, play like 15, 20 minutes of it, and you can get off and for me, like, it just, that serotonin, it just puts me in like a different spirit.
Well, it definitely seems like a palate cleanser.
It is, and and now like I'm sitting here and like I'm trying my best not to spend money on some of the DLC and stuff, even though there's like hot ass songs, because I've been playing DJ Max since I was first introduced to it back on. Actually, there was a PC version of it that was like online only. So there was a PC version of it for a while, and then I really got into it when DJ Max Portable came out for the PSP, and then like the music and stuff got me hooked. So every DJ Max game that came out that was available on a handheld system, like I got it because that's where they were all at. And then DJ Max evolved the Technica where you need a touchscreen so you can press the notes and all that stuff, and
I was gonna ask that. Yeah, is it one of those games where, because that's what I've noticed. Like I'm into. I know the old school games or the traditional ones like Muse Dash and stuff, where it's just kind of like, or Taiko Drum Master. But I noticed the modern ones where you're drag, tap, and doing all the gestural stuff. That seems to be the popular ones now, right?
Yeah. That was Technica. Like they made 5 games in the Technica series. I have the PS Vita version of it, and when it was on iOS and Android, not only did I get the game, like I spent all the money and got every song pack and everything, and I was crying like a baby when they closed the servers down. Which is why when if you rewind back to a lot of episodes here for the Boss Rush podcast, I'm always one of those people who's like, man, I love it, but I hate the fact that you spend all this money, they shut the servers down, and you just lost all your money and all that stuff. That's why So I'm just a proponent for game preservation and stuff like that. But yes, DJ Max, it's been my thing. It's been the only thing I've really been playing, which is wild because like I'm a Monster Hunter player, so like the fact that I've been playing some rinky-dink music game, and not actually going back and playing two system updates for Monster Hunter is just wild because I'm 2 behind right now on title. And there is an announcement that the next title update stream is happening. I think it happens next week and stuff like that. So now I think it's end of life for Monster Hunter at this point. Once this next one comes out, but yeah. But DJ Max, respect V. Like if you guys like music games, stuff like that, like it's a keyboard and mouse, or you can hook up a controller, and you play it that way. For you people that played it back in the day when it was on handhelds, you can use a controller. And test out your finger dexterity because I do get mad at myself sometimes. I was like, man, I couldn't finger this note properly. Come on, what the hell?
my son, he's 13, and he is super into Friday Night Funkin'. And I watch him play. I'm like, I cannot do that thing that fast.
Friday Night Funkin'.
It's sort of a DDR clone, but it's got character stuff on top of it. People get wild for that game. Yeah, give that one a shot. It just had a Kickstarter and made like millions of dollars. But check that thing out.
I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah.
LeRon, have you played and I forget what the title is. I feel like I should know. It's the music-based game that has like all the Final Fantasy music on it.
I couldn't stand it. I tried it. I couldn't stand it. It's something about that type of music. Like, I mean, Final Fantasy music has kind of been hit or miss for me. Like, like certain soundtracks I love, certain soundtracks I just cannot stand. I was like, man, like I'm not going to torture myself by hearing this again. Stuff like that. I tried it out. It just wasn't for me. Also, just like those Kingdom Hearts ones that came, what Theta Rhythm. I didn't like that, but that's because it's Kingdom Hearts, but whatever. Like I do like Dance Dance Revolution, Beat Mania 2DX, Papa Mania, of course, the DJ Max stuff. Yeah,
me and the other directors are constantly talking about like DDR second mix and Butterfly and Smile DK and all that stuff.
The classics.
And also really, if I don't know if you've ever played, but the first few Game Boy versions of DDR and Beat Mania are so good.
Yeah, they had like an attachment you put onto the Game Boys and stuff that made it feel like it was the controllers and stuff. That was wild. I remember that.
Yeah, those Game Boy ones are crazy.
Yeah, it's funny. I love music games. I love their soundtracks and stuff. And yeah, I've been known to actually have like a DDR or Beat Mania soundtrack in my headphones when I'm at the gym. So you think about those TikToks where it shows like everybody's looking at you like, and they're like, oh, it must be like the most epic song going on in their headphones, and I'm sitting up here listening to like music to your head or Butterfly Upswing mix and stuff. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Yep. So that's the only thing I've really been getting down on. I did want to start Resident Evil 4, but I just I can't right now. I can't, and I do have the Last of Us remake for PC, but I haven't had the gumption to play that either.
You should probably wait till they kind of adjust.
Oh yeah, I know. They had a patch that fixed a lot of the initial stuff, and then a new patch just came out and it ruined a few other things. Like especially for people And the sad part is, The Last of Us already needs like a high end graphics card. So we're talking 30 series or 6,000 30 series Nvidia or better, or 6,000 series AMD card, because you need VRAM. So but you need like the top tier like graphics cards. For those, it's like like you need more than 17 gigs of video RAM and stuff like that. So like it's not fun for a lot of people and stuff like that. And like the patch just comes out and breaks more things. And it's like, come on, guys, get it together.
Yeah. Stephanie, you beat Resident Evil 4.
I beat Resident Evil 4, my first ever Resident Evil game in my life. I actually joined, I guessed it on a podcast, franchise festival, to talk about it because they wanted a perspective of someone who's never played a Resident Evil game before, and they were nice about it. Because again, Resident Evil, a franchise where the fan base can kind of get on you like, "What? You never played Resident Evil before? You're lame." And Adam, just for some background, I am a chicken. I do not do well with horror games. I get scared at the slightest things. Like The Last of Us, when I first played it, and that's not even like a horror game, really.
Yeah.
It took me forever to get past Boston because I was just scared.
Yeah.
But over time, I've played a small handful of horror games if they've got really good either narrative story or just lore, because Resident Evil is not really narrative driven, but they're rich in lore. So I was too chicken to play Resident Evil 2 Remake, even though I bought it. But when they announced Resident Evil 4 Remake, I'm like, I'm going to commit, because Resident Evil 4 is action/horror. And I loved it. Corey, you need to just suck it up and finish it, because it was great. I loved it.
The reason why I haven't played it is because I just haven't had enough time to just sit down and play it, right? Like with all the stuff that's been going on and like our kind of content offerings changing, like
I know.
I just haven't had, the time, because I like when I sit down to play it, I want more than like 45 minutes to play it, right? I don't want to,
Oh yeah,
I turned it on
fair
and
enough.
ran around and broke my knife on some guy's face and get caught in a bear trap and have to turn it off, right? So,
no, fair. I'm just picking on you because, like, whenever I hear you talk about playing games on other podcasts, you're like, I don't like it. It's scary.
I know.
If I can do it, you can do it.
Very true. Also,
my Friday, you big old weenie.
I know. Plus, I have a standing date with friends on Friday nights for Destiny. So,
listen, fair enough. But I just want to say it looks great. It feels great. The pacing's good between each chapter. I love the boss fights. I don't know. There's just something really epic and really fun about it. I'm not great, but I went on regular mode. Even when I died a million times and it like suggested I could switch to easy mode, I'm like, no. I will do this. So I'm proud of myself. I had a great time. I actually liked it so much, I'll probably play it again, just not anytime soon because there are other priorities. So that took up most of my time because I wanted to beat it, A, before the book club, and B, just kind of, again, make space before Tears of the Kingdom. I know we still have a month left. And then I actually just started a new game today, but there's an embargo on it, so I can't really tell you what I played. But it is a game that I saw at PAX East. That's what I'll say.
Wait. There's you can't even say what the game is you're playing. That's how deep the embargo is. That's wild.
Most review copies are like that, though. They usually have a date where you can say, "Hey, I'm playing this," and you can only like talk about the first, like, I don't know, 3 chapters of certain or whatever.
I could probably talk about it by next week, maybe, by the way the release schedule is, but it's at PAX, and like that's what I'm excited about, because there are a lot of games from PAX where I just want to play, whether it's via review key or after. Especially with indies, I'm all about supporting them. So even if I get a review key, I'll probably end up still buying it. Like, I just hopped on Limited Run, Adam, and I saw that Lunark was on there. I'm like, oh, well, here we go. There's that, and also coming soon is Legend of Tian Ding on Limited Run, and I bought that game and played it on the Steam Deck. I didn't beat it yet, but I played it and I loved it because things, but also my mom's was born in Taiwan. It's not a common culture to learn about. So I might just double dip and buy the Switch physical version of it. So
that's cool.
So that's me.
Cool. Well, as for me, I finally did the new raid in Destiny called a Root of Nightmares, which was it was super cool. It's weird because this far into Destiny, you would be thinking some of this in-game content would be getting harder, but they're actually trying to make things, especially raids, because the big thing with Destiny 1 was like only less than 10% of players actually beat a raid, and something like 18% actually went into a raid with a full team and beat an encounter. So one of their goals right now is to like make the new player experience better and make it easier for them to kind of do in-game content. Now there are way harder raids than this one, but I do have to say it was really cool. You kind of go into like this you go into this pyramid, Destiny lore here, everybody, so get ready to get nerdy.
Buckle up.
What? I'm sorry.
I said buckle up. Sorry.
Yeah. So long story short, the pyramids are in range of Earth, and they try to attack Earth. And the Traveler, which is the big white ball you see in all the promotional images, becomes a Death Star and shoots all of the pyramids and kind of blasts the side of one of them open. And you kind of go into this deformed pyramid, and one of the gods of Destiny, Nezarec, is the main boss of this raid. He's a disciple to the Witness, which is the big bad in Destiny right now, and the whole raid revolves around his lore and his kind of resurrection and that kind of thing. And it's a really cool lore based raid if you're into Destiny lore, and then you fight Nezarec at the end, and then you get cool stuff for beating it. So I did that. Very colorful, very kind of a lot of bright pinks and purples and greens and blues, and a lot of cool imagery. What'd you say, Stephanie? Did you say
I didn't say anything. No.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I think everybody froze for a second, and I just kept talking. So, there's this encounter where you see all the planets and moons that have disappeared in the solar system because the darkness has arrived, and they're all collected in this one room, and you kind of have to trade the light and the darkness places on these plates, and then you take out, and that's how you start a damage phase on the big boss. It's a really cool encounter. The whole raid is super cool. It's a very cool entry level raid, I would say, for somebody who's never raided before. This is kind of one of the easier ones. It's just really cool. I really enjoyed it, and got some cool stuff out of it. I think we're going to do it again this Friday because there's an exotic weapon, an exotic shotgun, and as a Titan main, shotguns are my best friend. So it's cool. You can hear more about that on Tower Casuals, the Destiny podcast that I host, if you want to hear more. And then I played about an hour of Lunark last night. And like I said before, it's a super cool kind of, I don't know if I would call, would we call it a Metroidvania? I mean, I think the maze kind of feels like one, but I don't know if there's a lot of like.
I think Johan uses the word cinematic platformer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think that's like, and if you look at like the old Prince of Persia games, Flashback, Out of This World, Karateka, everything with kind of that 80s style, like rotoscope style animation is kind of similar to what he was doing.
Yeah, I really like it. I like the old school feeling of I'm jumping this platform, you got to commit, or like, when the spider drops down, you got to kind of duck and shoot it, or, I like how the jump animation works, where like if you're not close enough to the edge, he just falls right back down. And It made me laugh the first couple times. I was like, oh man, this is so old school and cool. And
yeah, there aren't that many games like that anymore. It's almost like a puzzler just in the mobility, because nowadays everyone's just used to like the most fluid, like advanced mobility. But having something where it's like you're moving bit by bit, and you have to be like moving in precise directions and get a running start to have enough leaping stuff. It's so typical for those games, and I think Johan just did an awesome job with it.
Yeah, I really like it. I'm looking forward to playing more for sure.
Well, see, now I'm like, I want to play it now, but I just want to buy the physical. But if I buy it from limited run, I'll probably not see it for another year. I don't know. I'll have to double check when their release schedule is.
I'll get you a code. Buy the physical, I'll get you a code.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I recommend it if you know, especially if you're fans of Flashback or Prince of like really old school Prince of Persia.
Yeah.
Man, I can't say enough cool things about that.
Okay, maybe not old school Prince of Persia, but definitely Flashback. God, because didn't Ubisoft do a like Flashback HD, and I played the shit out of that too.
Yeah, and I think they just released like they're like some sort of anniversary edition of Flashback 2 on something.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Did Out of This Worlds get remade? You remember that game?
No.
You don't? Oh my god! Yeah, you look it up. Flashback and Out of This World, like they feel like this. They feel like brothers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they came out around the same time. They were both by Delphi Software.
Yeah.
So the game Lunark actually reminds me of is a game I don't remember the name of, but it's like you're this guy who's kind of walking around and doing this platforming, and it's the same kind of deliberate animations, but you're going around collecting car parts. And then you build a car with the parts that you find in the level, and depending on how many parts you find in the level depends on how well your car races. It was a really old it was a really, really old computer game or PC game, probably like I want to say early 90s, maybe late 80s, something like that. And my friend at the time got a computer, and I did not have one yet, and I thought it was the coolest thing. And I would just like, they would be outside playing. I'm like, dude, I want to go into your dad's office and just play this game. And this is what it reminds me of. And it brought back so many old memories of that game specifically. And I'm like, man, this game is,
here, you asked earlier, what's one game that we would want to remake that would be a dream one. So one that we're not doing that I could say I absolutely want to do at some point. There was a Commodore 64 game way back when called Montezuma's Revenge. And
I remember that.
Yeah, that game is crazy. That game is like super hard and super just like, it's sort of Metroidvania-ish, but it's just like really a mean-spirited like Indiana Jones game. I would love WayForward to remake that game at some point.
Oh, man.
Nice.
Indiana Jones. Man, that new trailer dropped. It looks fun.
Yep, looks great.
So, well, we've actually we're hitting our time right now. Adam, I really appreciate you coming on. Lunark is out now. Really great game. Advance Wars comes out April 21st. You can look forward to that as well. Also, buy WayForward games because they're just great, and WayForward's great. And you may have already played one if you're not even sure you have. So, Adam, where can we find you on the internet, or if you have anything else to plug, please do so.
Yeah, I mean, mainly go to wayforward.com. We update our website whenever we have new games. So whatever we've got coming out, recent games have been Lunark, River City 2, Shantae 7 Sirens, Dawn of the Monsters. So yeah, just go to wayforward.com, or if you go on Twitter or Facebook, just type in WayForward and you'll see lots of what we've got going on in terms of recent releases. Yeah, that's the easiest way. And then I'm doing other stuff on the side, doing comics and books and stuff like that. But
awesome.
But that's different.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again for coming on. Really appreciate your time. I know you're a busy person, especially now with 2 games kind of in a launch status. So appreciate your time. And I want to thank everybody for watching and or listening to this episode of the Boss Rush Podcast. You can follow us at Boss Rush Network on Twitter. Find us on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram. Also, join the Discord if you want your questions answered. Next week, we have Crit Rate coming on. So very excited for that as well. We have it clipped on our YouTube channel. Stephanie talking about their product at PAX, so you can check that clip out if you want to find out more about them before they come on next week. Thank you so much for watching and or listening. Check out bossrush.net for all of our content. and we'll see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
So long.
The Boss Rush Podcast is a product of Boss Rush Media, LLC, and is recorded from our headquarters in Akron, Ohio. This show is produced, written, and directed by me, Corey Dirrig. My co-hosts are Stephanie Klimov, LeRon Dawkins, and Edward Barnell. You can find Stephanie at Klimov_author on Twitter and Instagram, as well as on the EXPcast. You can find LeRon at Exodus803 on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube, and also on Crossroads, the video game podcast. You can find Edward at ThatRetroCode on Twitter and Instagram, as well as hosting Nintendo Power Block. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at IamCoreyInHD, and find me hosting Tower Casuals, the Destiny podcast, and co-hosting Nintendo Power Block. Find the Boss Rush Podcast on all social media platforms at Boss Rush Podcast. You can also follow Boss Rush Media and the Boss Rush Network on all major social media platforms. Join the Boss Rush Network Discord and Facebook groups to interact with other friends and fans. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.